afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Bitcoin Mentor Q&A. As always, I'm Ed behind the Live Free BTC handle. And today we have Vangel with Bitcoin Mentor and Patrick behind Bitcoin Motorist with Bitcoin Mentor. And as a special guest, we have Anant. He's coming up right now with Bitcoin Keeper. If anyone has any questions during the hour, raise your hand and we'd be glad to have you up here to chat. How you doing today, Anant?
Hey guys, Anant. Hi, hello.
Everything going well? Thanks for coming and chatting with us.
Think he was having some difficulties. He might jump back in. Ed, how are you doing?
Good. Good. Yeah. Yeah. It seems like we'll have him back up here shortly.
Hey guys, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes. Much better.
Okay, how is the audio?
Sounds good.
Super. So, how is everyone? Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for coming and chatting with us. Do you want to give us a quick overview of Bitcoin Keeper and what your background is?
So, I've been in the Bitcoin, building on Bitcoin space for quite a few years. We started doing different wallet stuff and different tools to access the Bitcoin blockchain through wallets since 2017-18. Initially started off with a lot of internal experiments and what we should be doing and a lot of projects to really see where we want to get to. Eventually it culminated into us having two separate wallets. One is more focused on assets on Bitcoin and stuff like Lightning Network and for transactional use. While Keeper is more focused on you want to secure your wealth, you want to keep it for long term. You might want to use it once and then probably you feel so safe and secure after using it that you may not want to use it very soon again. So very different approach as compared to as compared to an app where you want the user to use it again and again. But that is essentially Keeper. In Keeper, as you guys would have kind of guessed with the name of it or the way we have been talking about it, is it's a multi-key app, and it's essentially it's a key management system. It's a key management platform where different keys allow you to manage your wealth in such a way that you can, sleep peacefully. It helps you with inheritance planning and everything you would want to do with your generational wealth. So that's a very short, description of what Keeper is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really interesting app. I really had a pleasure using it and testing out different use cases with my keys, and it integrates really well with hardware wallets. I've practiced with my Cold Card and Tap Signer, and yeah, it
Nice.
generally works really well. I'm curious, how long this has been in development, because it seems to be pretty well polished for something that I just recently heard of a few months ago.
So we have not been at our very best when it comes to marketing and talking a lot about it, but we have been working on it for almost a year now. Initially, we released it as a beta, and a lot of people who have tested it internally and gave us feedback that continued for a while, and then we released out as a proper release. So we have been working for a while. But it has started gaining traction more lately in the last few months, and you will hear more about it more often now.
Yeah, yeah, no, it seems like it's definitely come a long way. I mean, it seems like it's something that has been around as long as something like a nunchuck app, because that one I feel like is the most comparable. But I mean, I think it has all the features nunchuck has for the most part. I even found it had a couple little things like being able to check the I think the wallet fingerprint and certain little things that I found were easier on Keeper, and I was pleased by that. Even like the in-app Tor integration, so I was very pleased with that.
Yeah, yeah. So we have taken an approach where, on one hand, you would have you would get products where it is very much prescriptive way of building it. That okay, this is how you are supposed to go about it. And on the other end, other end, you might have a very, very, techie tool where you can do pretty much everything, but you need to know some technical aspects of how to go about it. What we are trying to do is we want to be able to hit that sweet spot where we give the flexibility to the user. So they're like, you can connect to so many different types of hardware wallets, you can have internal wallets and so on. But at the same time, we don't want to have the technical, we don't want to use any technical language. We don't have wanted to have any technical bent. So that's how we're going about it. And one of the key differences when it comes to how we have approached things is around the treatment of keys. Keys are essentially what really, secures your coins. And if you really understand that keys are actually real and wallets are a construction of keys, right? Then abstraction of keys. It becomes easier for you to manage those keys, manage how you secure those keys, manage how you want to make sure those keys are passed on properly, both from an access point of view and also from a title point of view, right? So we have taken an approach where it's a key-centric approach, and therefore the name keeper, rather than a wallet-centric approach. Of course, wallets and vaults are important abstraction of how you look at your wealth and how you check the balances and how you do send and receive. But really, what you want to do when you are trying to secure stuff is around keys. So that's a slightly different difference in the approach we have used.
Yeah, no, and I like that you're able to, like, for instance, have one key and then have it be part of multiple wallets. I like that feature. I think that that's like useful, and I think it's also good for people that while it seems more complex, for someone that doesn't necessarily know, like, keys in the Bitcoin space, it actually does a good job of like teaching that, because it can show that, like, yeah, you can have like one private key, but it can be associated with a multi-sig and a single sig wallet, and the key is actually the thing that you want to have backed up and what's actually on the uh, like hardware wallet, for instance. So yeah, I think that layout and structure is a very useful one. I'm curious, Patrick and Vangel, do you guys have anything you want to add or have a question?
Yes. So I was listening in, and I really appreciate what Anant just said about not using technical language, because I think that that's kind of what we're all trying to do with Bitcoin. Is we're trying to make it as simple as possible for the end user without them having to feel like that they are, getting a degree in software engineering. So I really appreciate that, and I'd like to hear more about that. How the language is simplified within Bitcoin Keeper.
So it is more of an ongoing activity, but simple things like we do give a lot of thought about how do we use the app and how do we want our users to use the app. There is a slight difference because as developers, we would assume certain things. We would assume what a PSBT is, and we might end up putting it there because that is actually the exact language. But when it comes to users who are not us, they might have no clue or have no interest in understanding what a PSBT is, right? For them, it is about signing a transaction. So explaining them that when you use this feature, when you go for a particular key, and like I said, it's a key-centric approach. So one of the options within the keys is being able to use that key for signing a transaction, even if the transaction doesn't live in your app. The transaction might be on a Sparrow wallet or somewhere else. You can still use Keeper to house the key and use that key to sign an external transaction. Especially if it is obviously if it is a compatible wallet like Sparrow. So if you have a mobile key, you can do that. Now, um, you could call it like, okay, we want to scan a PSBT and sign a PSBT. That is useful in certain instances, but initially you would want to tell the user that, okay, this is about signing a transaction. And then as a subtext or as a further explanation, you can tell, okay, it is also called a PSBT, which is partially signed Bitcoin transaction. So it's not just that we want to abstract it away. Sometimes simply abstracting it away from the technical language actually causes more problems, because you might have a hardware wallet, or you might have another coordinator app where it says PSBT. So you have to explain both the aspects to the user. Okay, you're going to sign a transaction. By the way, it might be called PSBT. That kind of an approach, right? So that's one example, but that applies to a lot of places. We often have debates within the team whether we should call it a single sig or a single key, multi-sig or a multi-key. And we try to, talk to users and understand what is more easily understandable, right? Yeah, so those are some of the examples how we try to make it easier for the end user.
So
Yeah.
not the Steve Jobs of hardware, wallets at this point. Is that your goal? Something so simple and anyone can use it and totally beginner friendly? Would you say that's your like number one mission with your wallet to set you apart from everyone else?
I would love to target that, but there are some aspects which are educational. So you might like to abstract everything away, but then you do hit some places where you have to like make sure that the user understands a little more. They have to like probably take 2 steps. You might take 10 steps, but the user might have to take a couple of steps, because there are some things which you cannot not explain. But yeah, the idea is that you end up meeting the user at a place where it becomes, something that simply works, and something that simply works all the time with, all the options that the app provides.
That sounds good. It sounds like learning how to ride a bike, and you guys have the training wheels. And it's a very would you say that it's very beginner friendly? Something that if someone started with this wallet in particular before they move on to maybe a hardware wallet or something more like a Sparrow or something even like a Cold Card Q or Air Gap, something like that, starting with this, they can at least, when they move on to those other wallets, have some idea what some of the terminology is if they started with your wallet. If at least that's what I'm getting from it.
Yeah, that's true, but we would probably keep our users. So what would end up happening is that you would start learning, and at the same time, you end up liking the app. Uh, it does provide you all the features. You can actually add your cold card to it. You can add your cold card queue to it, and all that, right? So the idea is that at the end of it, for as you so if you imagine a Bitcoiner's journey from being a newbie to going on to a full maximalist, throughout that journey, you might start at a different point, but we want to be the wallet which takes you along and fulfills all your need. And once you have used the wallet, and in combination with other hardware wallets, you have a system that you are comfortable with. You have a scheme that lets you sleep peacefully at night. You have something in place from an inheritance point of view that that also takes your worry away. So we want to be the last app you would use. May not be, maybe it is also your first app, but we want to keep our users. We want to make sure that the users are happy with it.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that from the app too, and I think that it does a good job of being like everything you would really need. I think someone, like I said, that's coming in and is new could get something out of it and use it and understand it. But also someone, like the guys up here, I think we could really get like a power user out of it and be able to make multi-sig wallets and have multiple wallets in there, all related to hardware wallets. So yeah, it does do like both of those. I'm curious if you have any plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
that's so just on those lines. So if you look at our tiers, they are like pleb, hodler, and diamond hand. So that's kind of a slight hint to suggesting that you are growing in your Bitcoin journey. You are like becoming more of a diamond hands as you go along and upgrade the tiers.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'm curious. Do you guys have like any
Mhm.
plans for like Bitcoin Keeper? I mean, like I said, it seems like it's already a pretty complete app and it's polished. But I'm curious like what you guys want to eventually turn it into.
So the work is never complete, but there are quite a few. There are a few things. which we are very excited about in the near future. And those are going to be probably a few months away, if not more. But essentially, one of them is Miniscript. So what Miniscript really means, again, trying to convert it into a non-technical language. Miniscript basically allows your wallet to have a time dimension. So basically, what that means is that currently, when you secure your funds, your wallet just has a single behavior. It doesn't have a behavior which changes with time. What Miniscript allows you to do is add that dimension to the app, so to the wallet. So you can define that, okay, for this particular time period, my wallet should be able to sign a transaction with 3 keys, but after 2 years, it should be able to sign with 2 keys. So you can add that flexibility into the app. So that is what Miniscript gives you. Now, we have been working on it internally, and right now we are testing Miniscript thoroughly, because it's quite a powerful tool, and you can do a lot of things with it, from time lock to degrading multisig to a lot of use cases it can touch. So we want to make sure that we thoroughly test it. We want to make sure that we exactly expose the use case which is going to be beneficial for the user and confuse them less. So that's one area which we are excited about. That also actually leads to connects to the second point, but I'll probably come back to how these two are connected. But the second is the Keeper Concierge. Keeper Concierge currently is more like in beta, and what we are planning to do with Keeper Concierge, and we are internally testing the prototype, talking to a lot of advisors, is so the objective of Keeper Concierge is to provide you help. If you know the app, if you know how multi-key works, you probably might not go there. But we have observed and spoken to a lot of users, and we have done a lot of focus interviews, and one of the key things we have realized is that no matter how proficient you are, you do feel a need for a helping hand. Sometimes you just want to make sure you are right. Sometimes you want to ask a question, and that is enough. Sometimes you want someone to actually take you through the steps, right? So there are so many different areas where the user needs support, and you cannot. So if the objective of the overall app is to make you feel comfortable and let you sleep, have a good night's sleep after securing your Bitcoin, then you have to add an aspect of concierge where there is help available if you need. And that is the piece we are building right now, which will take care of your FAQ kind of questions, where you can just look at answers, where there's a AI bot integrated. It will also let you raise troubleshooting tickets, which let's say if a small thing is not working in the app and you need a technical response from the backend team, or um, or you can also go for like a session with an advisor or a mentor, where you can choose a mentor, have an initial session with them, and then probably get into a relationship with that particular advisor. So Keeper Concierge is the second piece, which I'm quite excited about in the short term.
No, it's very interesting, and it sounds like it's a little bit like what we're doing with Bitcoin Mentor over here. Just trying to help people with the specific people that want like that extra hand holding, or want that guidance, and want like a path to follow and some educational resources. So, and I think that's a hugely valuable thing. I'm actually curious. With the mini scripting stuff, I'm not too well versed in what mini script fully entails, but I am aware of like time locking and stuff like that. Would you guys be putting like a pure time lock into like the wallets or the Bitcoin Keeper app?
Yeah, so let me just clarify the first part. So when on the Keeper Concierge, we are not we are going to have advisors who are well versed with advising people can help users through our app. We are not going to provide that service ourselves. So we understand that there are a lot of advisors out there, including Bitcoin Mentor and other teams, which are uh, some of them are very specific to a particular geography. Some of them are very specific to a particular type of skill. Maybe it is around inheritance. Maybe it is around the legal aspects of a particular country. Some people have their own HNI network. So we are very clear that we are a technology provider, and a team which wants to excel in providing the right tools. And when it comes to the white glove service or the concierge service and the advisor mentorship service, we want to let the users connect to the right people they want to connect with, and have a conversation with them. So we won't be providing that in-house, but we want to connect a lot of advisors out there with the users. So that's a quick clarification on the concept. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
No, that does make sense. I definitely understand the reasoning behind that, because there's only so much time you guys have to like be also developing the app, but then doing technical support. And I've seen that with a lot of other Bitcoin companies, is that they outsource the support because of that reason.
Absolutely. And we are very clear what our skills are. Those skills are not something that is our forte. We want to like focus on building the best quality product technically, and then have that like soft skills and advising skills with the people who are best at it. So that was on the concept piece. A miniscript does it's not a direct connection, but basically when I say miniscript, it does give you time locking capability. So if we figure out, or if we think through of the best way to make that available through the app in such a way that it doesn't really hurt the user doesn't really end up locking their wealth away for more than they want to be. So we are going through that UX exercise, and once you figure that out, definitely that's one of the capabilities that miniscript offers you.
Awesome. Yeah, I've found it a little burdensome to have to do time locking just even to test around with. So that'd be really cool if there was a platform or app that I could like easily just play around with it. So, but I see we have a couple new people in the room right now. So I just want to mention once again, if you have any questions or you want to join the conversation, just raise your hand. We'll have you up here. And I see Ben is up here on stage with us. Did you want to add something to the conversation, Ben?
Yo, sorry that I had to jump in a little
Hey,
bit late, but good to see you guys, and glad to see Anant here chatting about Keeper. Yeah, I don't know if I missed a little bit off the top in and around one of the coolest things I think in and around Keeper is, and apologies if I'm repeating stuff that was already said here, but being able to recover everything, including like your config files and all that kind of stuff, with nothing more than a seed phrase. Was that already touched on in there? Am I just repeating stuff here?
We haven't talked about that yet, but I'm curious.
Ooh, maybe Anant can take that and kind of explain how a user and practically speaking how it works is you have a single seed phrase, but you may have all these different accounts and multi-sig wallets and all these different things. You may have all these different labels and data, and if you were to download the Keeper app and simply put in your seed phrase, somehow all of that stuff magically appears. And I'm wondering if Anant could elaborate on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So good, Ben, you kind of brought that up. We did not cover that part, so happy to talk about it. Essentially, what Keeper gives you is like a master seed phrase. We call it the recovery key, but that's something that those 12 words are what gives you the capability of recovering the whole app. It is not just that particular key, but any of the other hotkeys you might have in the wallet, or the way you have created 3 vaults. One is a 2 of 3, one is of different configurations. You might have transactions and labels and naming the vault and stuff like that. All of this is called metadata. So what this single piece of information, these 12 words, can do is you keep them safe. And when if let's say if you lose the app, if you just use those 12 words again, the whole app would be would be recovered, and therefore the name, the recovery key. And the way it works is, practically speaking, it's very straightforward. You download the app, you go to settings, and you just like back up those 12 words. You confirm that you've backed them up by confirming one or more words, and that's it. That's basically backing it up. When you recover the app, you go through the recovery option, put those 12 words in, and everything comes back. Now, how does that work? So what we do is, there are two parts to it, two very simple parts to it. It's not that complicated actually. One is we have used BIP85. What BIP85 allows us to do is have child keys out of this master recovery key. So we as a company do not need to know any of your hotkeys that you have in your wallet, but because you have used your master parent key, the parent key would be able to generate all the child keys, right? It's a one-way relationship, and that lets you recreate all these. Let's say you have three hotkeys on the app, and it will just regenerate all the three hotkeys. Now, when it comes to other metadata in the app, what we simply do is we take the app when you're first using the app. It takes all the metadata of the app, and it encrypts it with the hash of the recovery key, and keeps it on our relay. Because it's encrypted, it's just a blob of data for us. We don't know what it is. We can't really make out anything out of it. But when you go through the recovery flow, it simply pulls that data back up again using an identification mechanism, which is called master fingerprint. But when the app pulls it back, it simply knows that I have to, decrypt it using the same 12 words, and voila, you have the whole app back as it was. So it's a very simple mechanism, but our key objective, the reason why we did this, is because we did not want an account system. We did not want where the user has to create an account with us and then remember that account separately. 12 words or the seed phrase or these things are very common in the Bitcoin space. We have infrastructure available outside of Keeper. Like you can, put those 12 words on a steel plate. Everyone knows how to manage those 12 words. If you have 11 words, you know that the 12th word is a checksum. So there's a lot of education, there's a lot of infrastructure available for these 12 words. So we said, why don't we use the system that is available and not try to invent something which is custom to us. So that's essentially what that piece does.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm surprised I didn't know that already. But being like using BIP85 in a way that like people aren't even aware that it's being used, I think that's the first time I've heard of it. But I mean, BIP85 is great if people aren't aware that it also works for instance, a cold card. You could have your master seed and then generate seed phrases for hot wallets, and then if you ever lose like the hot wallet or the device gets lost, your cold card can always restore that, and you guys are essentially doing the same thing in Bitcoin Keeper. I find that very interesting, very very cool.
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt. I've got a quick question, because that sounds very amazing. When it comes to some wallets or keys like the tap signer, which doesn't initially have a seed phrase, but technically there's one associated if you want to recover it. How does that work with the recovery of all the files? Because I'm blanking on the name of the file. I know that there's a file when you set up your tap signer that you can use to recover a hotkey, should you ever lose the tap signer. So how does that work? Or maybe this one's a one-off that doesn't.
No. That's a great question, honestly. And it is not a one-off. See, one of the when you want to secure your wealth in Bitcoin, one of the key aspects is you keep your keys offline, or at least you keep most of your keys offline. So the hotkeys that are there in the wallet, you might want to create a single key wallet with it and play around with pocket change in there. That's completely okay. But one of the key principles is you use offline keys and hardware wallets for it, which includes TapSigner. So any of the hardware wallets that you use, including TapSigner, would have the key completely offline. Even the backup wouldn't have any idea of the key that you have used in a cold card or a TapSigner or a Jade or whichever hardware wallet you're using. But what it knows is it knows the non-private part of it, like the public key and how the vault was constructed, how the multisig was constructed. So that information is, I think you might be referring to something called a BSMS file or a wallet descriptor.
Yes.
It is basically yeah. So that's basically the configuration of that wallet, and it doesn't include the private key. So private key, you keep it outside, keep it safe, keep it in a safety deposit box, keep it with yourself, keep it in a safe place that you feel comfortable with. The app only knows the configuration of that multisig so that it can fetch a balance, it can show you the next address, but it cannot sign a transaction and cannot send the money out. So the same thing happens with TapSigner. You have the configuration within the app, which can be recovered with this recovery key, but private key lives completely outside of the app. Hope that answers what you were.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Super.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting idea that you guys came up with there. I'm curious if you guys have like any other like hidden things like that that I just might not be aware of. Like I'm curious like if you guys are doing anything different from like I guess like the competitors that you find like to be innovative or yep.
Yeah, so the team has been trying to do a lot of stuff. For example, I don't know if you have come across the Canary Wallet feature of the app.
I don't think so.
Okay, so that's again not something that we have kind of. It's not something custom to Bitcoin Keeper app, but what we have observed is that a lot of OG Bitcoiners, what they would do is if they have a multisig, and let's say they have a 3 or 5, right? And what they would do is maybe use that configuration to secure most of their wealth, but they would keep a small amount in each of the key, right? So let's say I keep $500 in each of the key. Now, what that gives me is it gives me a global alarm system basically, or a canary in the coal mine kind of a situation, where if someone gets hold of that key, right, the first thing they would do is, and let's say they have kind of hacked that key or they have access to that key completely. There are a lot of ways to get into a hardware wallet, or they have even probably gotten hold of the 12 words. But one of the first things they would do is check the balance and try to withdraw what is there. Now, with this bait amount in place, if they withdraw those $500 or $100 or whatever, then I know that that key is compromised without my app knowing anything, or without any external hooks placed, right? Now, as soon as I know that, okay, this particular key is compromised, I just rotate it out of my 3 of 5. So yes, I've lost those few $100, but maybe I'm securing, multiple times, 100 times more than that in my 3 of 5. And that's pretty simple and straightforward. So what we have done is, with the Canary Wallet feature, we have made it very easy to, just use it within the app. We educate the user about it. We let the user, put some funds in it, and that's it. When if the funds are withdrawn, then the user would know, and they would be, we would suggest that why you should be rotating these keys out. So that's another small quick feature probably that some people might miss.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never even really considered that to be I mean the fascinating thing to me is just the plethora of different little tools and services that are coming out of this like that, because you would want something like that, but we've kind of taken uh, the last 15 years or so and not had services like this. But like even just key rotation out of like you want to rotate an old key and a multi-sig, um, these things are just really starting to become easy to do for uh, Bitcoiners, and hasn't been for this long, and it's really interesting to just see that all evolving in front of us. And I think that the next like decade or two are going to be really interesting. I think we're going to see a lot more like Bitcoin Keeper and other competitors really trying to help do these advanced techniques for people that aren't necessarily technically savvy. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, and we strive to do more as definitely, these are some of the loved features that we have in the app. There are more things like we have assisted keys, which people may not obviously realize because we have so many options in the for key selection. One of them is as simple as having a 2FA. So if you have another device, or you want to use one of our assisted keys, you just set up a Google Authenticator, any other authenticator app, because people are used to it, and you can use that authentication mechanism as a key signing piece. So that's a good option to have in a multi-key approach. It's not, no, we don't allow you to have that for a single key wallet, because then we will have the custody of the coins essentially. But we allow that only when it's one of three or one of five of your setup. So that's a good small option you have. Maybe you don't have so many hardware wallets. You might want to use one of these options.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'm curious on that note. Are there any like developments in the Bitcoin space around like maybe the software or just the hardware that you're really interested in regarding self custody and like improving that for like the security for Bitcoiners?
Yeah, so Taproot and the things that come with music and Frost, and there's a lot that can happen there. There are a bunch of trade-offs with going down that route, which have not really been resolved, mostly around the interactivity part of it. But that's an interesting space that we are studying and watching and trying to understand more closely. And that might improve the privacy of the whole multi-key situation, right? So that's an area I'm keenly kind of observing. Um, and essentially, the adoption, Miniscript is there. Miniscript is something we can do and can be done. But how does it get adopted? Which use case actually users find more useful? There is a lot you can do with Miniscript and pre-signed transactions. Like at the end of it, a lot of this is software, right? And you can play around with the software and come up with really small, unique features like the Canary wallet and stuff like that. So Miniscript gives you a completely new dimension to have more such use case. But we want to figure out the right use case. We just don't want to expose it as a do anything tool. That's not really what Keeper is about. So we want to figure out what is going to be really useful for the users, and then expose it.
Excellent. Yeah, and I just want to once again announce to the audience if anyone if you have a question or you want to join the conversation, feel free to raise your hand and come up. Vangel, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, actually, just adding on to what you said to the audience, and it doesn't have to be on topic with what we're talking about right now, just so everyone's clear. It can be a Bitcoin question, a challenge that you have that you're trying to overcome, a roadblock that you have. You have a lot of knowledge up here, and you can get your answers answered. But I'm not kind of a little bit off topic too. Is what's your favorite hardware favorite hardware device to use?
uh, Honestly, I actually prefer a multi-key situation. There are small trade-offs because we go into details of each of the hardware wallets. No hardware wallet is perfect. There are some great ones out there, honestly, but they have, for example, a seed signer is a completely different approach to a cold card queue, which is very different probably to having a key on another device. I think there is some concern around a multisig wallet kind of an approach. But honestly, if you look at the supply chain attacks, if you look at the hardware vulnerability problems, a multi-key approach, which has 3 or 5 wallets which are completely different so it doesn't have to be 3 jades, maybe 1 jade, 1 seed signer, and 1 cold card. If you have that kind of a combination, that combination is my favorite, is my absolute favorite. There are so many problems it gets rid of. So you have to imagine that there is something called like an address replacement attack. Without going into the technical details of it, it means that an app can simply replace an address and steal away the funds. Now, in a multi-key situation, that becomes 10x, not 10x. I mean, order of magnitudes harder. You All of those hardware wallet manufacturers and the coordinator app, keeper app, all 4 of them will have to collude to replace it in exactly in the same way. So that becomes almost impossible, right? One, I have to display an address which is incorrect. Second, I have to display the same incorrect address which all the other 3 hardware wallets are also displaying. It becomes completely impossible to attack. So these attack vectors are so well addressed in a multi-key situation that whenever anyone wants to ask me what is the easiest and what is the most tolerant way to secure my funds, I always go for a multi-sig option.
Yes, and to be clear, when you're saying not 3 of the same wallet, you're also meaning not 3 of the same wallet maker as well. So
Absolutely.
like Cold Card Q and MK for same wallet maker. Generally speaking, you wouldn't count those as 2 separate. You would count that as kind of one company, one umbrella, and you want at least 3 different umbrellas.
Absolutely. And you might go further in terms of trying to differentiate, but at any point in time, 3 different. So multi location and multi hardware wallet is the best approach. You don't keep it at the same place and you don't use the same company / hardware.
Yeah, I think that the multi-vendor, multi-sig approach is a very strong solution to people's privacy, and definitely, like you mentioned at the end there, the geographical separation of the keys is very important. If you have all 3 of them in your house at the same time, then you're not really doing yourself any favors if there's a break-in or evil maid attack, because then they're all right there. And we want to prevent that. So you want to eliminate those. So with multi-sig, there's like you said, the trade-offs that take place. There's things to be considered, but it is in security terms up there on the top. I'm curious though, circling back to you mentioning the Frost stuff. I'm not too familiar with it. I've seen some like uh, early demos of it here on Twitter. So I'm curious what you know about it, and if you could maybe just explain that to the people listening.
So Frost is a typical variation. I'm not a super expert on it, but I'll give you my view on it. So with the upgrade of Bitcoin scripting and introduction of Taproot and the last upgrade to Bitcoin, what it enabled you to do is, especially with Schnorr signatures, is instead of having different signatures, you could build the key in such a way that it encompasses multiple keys. So what that means is that I can add 3 keys up and they would look like a single key, right? Or I can add 5 keys up and they would look like a single key. Now, what the privacy benefit to having that approach as compared to the existing multi-sig approach is that when you transact on chain, when someone looks at your transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain or on an explorer, it doesn't know whether it's a 2 of 3 or 3 of 5 or a single sig, right? And there are some other minor privacy benefits, but you can understand that when you're interacting between your own wallets, or you're getting in funds or spending out funds, you really don't want it to be very visible out there that, okay, this is a particular configuration of the wallet. That's not really a deal breaker, but it does reduce your privacy, because multi-sig transactions are not like everyone is not having a 3 or 5. Most of the transactions are a single sig transaction, so your transaction does stand out. The observer would still not know that it is your transaction, but it does stand out, and then it might one thing might lead to another. So it's an absolute benefit if you cannot differentiate between the transaction if it is a multi-sig or single sig. That is what mu-sig allows you to do. One other benefit is obviously the transaction cost. A multi-sig is typically costlier as compared to a single sig transaction. And since mu-sig will mean a single key signing the transaction, it is essentially essentially cheaper than a multi-sig transaction. There are I wouldn't say marginal benefits, and I wouldn't say earth-shattering benefits, but there are some decent benefits to it. Now, what is not possible over there in the mu-sig world is when you want to use a mu-sig mechanism, it means, at least at the present, the way it stands currently is, you have to have we have to have 2 rounds of interaction between the keys. So when you want to sign a transaction, you would have to go to all your keys and then once again, which is almost a deal breaker from a UX point of view, right? So there have been some advancements in it when it comes to mu-sig, mu-sig 2, Frost, and there are some other variations. But that is essentially what this whole space is about. If I was able to explain it well.
No, that was a great explanation. That cleared it up. I think that's a really great, like you mentioned, privacy tool for people to obfuscate a little bit of that information and metadata on like a blockchain when
Right.
you're transacting. That's hugely helpful. I think that it's crazy that we can even tell that someone has a multi-sig, wallet just based off of the public ledger. So, that goes a long way. And I'm curious from you as a developer, we had the Taproot fork quite a while ago now at this point in Bitcoin years. Yeah. So I'm curious like what you think as far as like wallet adoption is going to be for that, because I know some wallets have it. It doesn't seem like it's as widespread as it should be by now, but maybe that's completely normal. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
So I remember the days when we used to track SegWit adoption, and it did take a long time before SegWit was fully adopted, which had more obvious benefits than Taproot, if I can say that. So I don't expect anything in Bitcoin space to be accepted very quickly, and that is a feature, not a bug. People want to be doubly, triply, 4 times sure that this is the right thing to do before they adopt it and make it an option within their wallet. So it will take its time, and it's an ecosystem play. The exchanges have to support it. You might start using a Taproot address, but if you're not able to send money from an exchange to that address, that's a big blocker for the user. So in general, the ethos around being backward compatible means that even if at least 95% of the ecosystem has to move together, and then you can force the rest of the 5% or like persuade them to join. So I think Taproot will take its own time before it's properly adopted.
Yeah, no, I know. And I was semi joking, but it is crazy how fast the Bitcoin space moves, just in terms of like the Lightning adoption and use cases and wallets around Lightning, and then you get like the eCash built in there, and that's all like just come so far in the last like year or two, and then something like that, like on the base layer, like the consensus rules and like the scripting script types, they're definitely moving slowly, like you said, like because there really is no need to switch over to Taproot. If you're using a SegWit address, you're perfectly fine, you're perfectly secure, and it's still, in terms of fees, like much better than a legacy address, and those are still even being used today. So that, which is
Yeah.
something to be said. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, well, we're reaching the top of the hour now, so I want to give Vangel and Patrick up here a chance to ask any questions or add anything that they had on their mind.
Yeah, not very, very informative. I had to look up Frost while you were speaking just to learn more about it, because I hadn't heard much of it up until now. So, and obviously the canary issue that you brought up, that's a really good idea. I had heard of it before, but yeah, that's a really good idea. And it just seems obvious that if you are going to set up a multi-sig, you want to use three If you're going to use a hardware wallet, use 3 devices from different vendors, and that mitigates a lot of the risk that some people who are critics of hardware wallets have. It mitigates a lot of it because 2 of those 3 keys would have to be compromised at the same time. So very informative and very, very exciting stuff that you're doing over there at Bitcoin Keeper, and I'm really happy that I was here. I learned a lot from listening to you.
Yeah, I second that. I learned quite a bit, and I haven't had a chance to check out Keeper, but it's on the top of my list for this weekend. So appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Anant. And do you have any like last things you want to add to the conversation? Maybe some stuff that you felt like we might have missed when we were talking about Bitcoin Keeper and some of the stuff you do?
No, I think we have covered most of it, and I would request is for all of you guys to try it out and give us more feedback. Sometimes we have some blind spots, or sometimes you might end up suggesting something or find something that we have missed. So the best way to help us or to encourage us is to just try out the app and give us some feedback. So I'll just leave you guys with that.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. And I definitely recommend everybody that's listening to go check out the Bitcoin Keeper app. It's great and offers a lot of, like we were mentioning earlier in the conversation, a lot of features for power users, but also makes it very simple to understand for someone that might not know the ins and outs of Bitcoin self custody. So great app overall. Give it a check out and make sure to give Anant a follow and give the Bitcoin Keeper account a follow as well, so you can follow what they're doing and keep up to date with any updates they come out with. Did you guys have anything, Evangel? Do you have something you wanted to add?
Well, we have 5 minutes left, and I was going to say if anybody in the audience has any questions, now would be the time. Floor is all yours.
Yeah, yeah. So make sure you give them a follow and check it out. I do want to ask one quick question, Anant. Do you have like any future developments for Bitcoin Keeper, being a developer there, that you might want to share with us, or give us a little sneak peek or preview on what you guys are doing there?
I think we did touch upon that, probably, like I said, the concierge piece which we are building out. So you would see more on it in the next few months, and the mini script piece. These are the 2 main areas that you should look out for and get in the next few release.
Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah. And if anyone's joined in a little late, make sure you go back and listen to that, because we did cover some of the manuscript topics and the concierge thing that was mentioned.
Yep.
All right, excellent. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up now, since we're getting close to top anyway. Um, I really want to thank you for coming and talking to us. We had a really great conversation, very informative, and you answered a lot of questions and definitely shared some things that I wasn't even aware of that the app could do. So I'm very interested to see the development of Bitcoin Keeper, as well as um, what you personally are doing in there. So thank you again. Yeah, and like I said, make sure you give him and the guys up here a follow. Make sure Anant Bitcoin Keeper, check that out. Vangel and Patrick behind Bitcoin Motorist are also part of Bitcoin Mentor, as am I. Live Free B2C. And if you want to check out that, you can go to bitcoinmentor.io and email one of us, or book a free session to learn how we can help you with your Bitcoin journey. Anything from self custody, running a node, multi-sig, we can help you with that. We do the space every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So you can come back to chat with us on Wednesday this week. And that being said, I guess we'll wrap it up. Take care, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.